from you all.
Hi, I'm Helen and I live in Saarbrücken near the French border. After graduating from high school, I lived and worked in Canada and Hawaii for several months because I always had the dream to discover the unique wildlife, endless space and untouched landscape. After that, I decided to study product design in Saarbrücken. Besides my creative streak, I also a passionate outdoor sportsman. I do triathlon, go climbing, diving, mountain biking and much more. That's why I come into contact with sports products a lot. Combining both passions was the decisive factor in developing an individual cycling shoe. I always have the problem that I can't find really good running shoes for myself. And many cyclist friends also complained again and again about painful pressure points on their feet. So I asked myself how I could produce an individual cycling shoe that not only fits and can be automated and produced with new technologies, but it also stands for the future, for sustainability and innovation. For me, being an entrepreneur means one thing above all, being encourageous and enriching the world with something necessary and making it a little bit better. If it could do that, I would be very happy.
Hello everybody, my name is Ina Vögle and with me is my partner Maripi. She will introduce herself in a minute. Let's just share about myself. Right now I live in Frankfurt, Germany, and throughout my career I have been living in various places abroad. It was the UK, Japan and most recently Vienna in Austria. A fun fact about myself is when living in Austria I fell in love with ballroom dancing. And that was not just a fantastic hobby, and I had a great dancing partner, but it was also came along with all these exciting nights out, ball nights out, where you had these glamorous events, for example, in the Viennese Hofburg. That was much fun. So let me hand over to Maripi, and she will introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Maria del Pilar Panizzo, but as Ina mentioned, everybody knows me as Maripi. I live in Lima, Peru, and have always lived and worked in Latin America. Right now, for almost 20 years in the aviation industry. A fun fact about me is that in 2019, I joined the MBA program at Frankfurt School, which required me to fly every 3 weeks for the weekend to Frankfurt. That was an important part of the experience for me because I wanted to expand my horizons in every single aspect. But due to COVID-19, all of us ended doing half of the program at home, and for me, back in Peru, as I started. Why do we want to become entrepreneurs? Actually, I think I can speak for Ina and for me when I say that we didn't think about becoming entrepreneurs. I think this has been part of the transformational experience that comes with going through the MBA. We decided to work in our thesis project together about transportation. We fell in love with our idea. We think we have something interesting between hands, and we decided to give it a chance. So Ina will explain to you our business idea, Flexmo.
So let's share about the idea of Flexmo. It's a company called Flexmo, and it is an app-based solution offering a mobility budget to corporations and corporate customers. So it should replace the company car in the end, and it integrates a vast majority of transport modes. It's a flexible, sustainable, one-stop shop solution. And let's see where this journey will take us. We are very excited in being part of this Female Founders Program, and I'm much looking forward to meeting you all guys very soon.
Hi, I'm Ivana, I'm 35 years old. I have a history in finance. I worked in a bank for 8 years. I spent most of my money for traveling, at least when it's not Corona time. I lived in Spain for a year. I lived in Texas for a year when I went to school. This, by the way, explains my weird accent that I just cannot control and get rid of. I started my entrepreneur life last year. How did this happen? To be honest, I don't know. It just happened. I had an idea, I pursued it, it was the right moment, and then step by step, I got here where I am today, having joined forces with a great team of 3 other people. And together we are on a really big mission because we want to build the first programmable quantum simulator in Germany for industrial use, which is also data center compatible. So you can literally put it into a rack in a data center, which is really cool and very unique, and very scalable as well. So really, really cool. And quantum technology is just super fascinating and evolving so quickly. So I don't know, just amazing to be part of that. So I'm very happy. We are applying for a grant at the moment to start manufacturing. We are also getting ready to raise venture capital to support the start. And yeah, I'm very excited to share all those challenges that we are facing with you, and to get to know you and share experiences, support each other. I think it's great to be part of this network and this program. And yeah, I forgot about the fun fact. I don't know, I'm really bad in such things. I guess I don't know, I skip lunch to have cake in the afternoon, but you can never tell my kids that, never.
Hello, my name is Nora. I am the CEO and co-founder of Finland Way International Preschools. A couple of years ago, I needed to make the decision of whether to stay at a whale research station in Patagonia or continue developing my business idea. So here I am, a couple of years later, with an expanding school network around the world. The dream that's driving my entrepreneurship is really to transform the way education is being exported from my native Finland, to make the best quality education available for families and children around the world in an affordable and accessible way. And the way to do that is with technology. Really looking forward to joining the Wave9 at the Frankfurt Accelerator and working with all of you guys.
We are live, Accelerator Frankfurt 2021, Wave9, female founders. Hello, everybody. Hello, our community. Thank you for following us. It's 1 p.m. CET in the lovely city of Frankfurt. And we're joined here by the ladies from the female founders Wave9. And we're closely approaching Demo Day. Demo Day, write it down, it will be on June 30th. So 30th of June at the same time, our usual time, 1 p.m., where you will hear these ladies pitching to investors, and we hope you could join us. Maria, how has it been so far, the Female Founder Program? This has been inspired by you.
Yeah, no, I am really happy to see the great variation on the ideas and the products that the female founders are producing. In a way, I could say we should just talk about founders, but still it's called the Female Founders Program, so we can use the word. No, I'm very excited. I think the broad width and also geographical location of you guys, it's very inspiring. So I'm really interested to see what we can find out with this branding workshop.
Awesome. I would like to thank our production guy, Marco. Marco, can you double check if the LinkedIn is going through? I believe I have the LinkedIn live here and I see actually just our banner. I don't see a picture.
Might be a delay.
How's Twitch and YouTube? Are we on? Maria?
Yes, on Twitch we are on.
On Twitch we're on. On YouTube, we're just doing a double check. Live is always full of unexpected surprises. So basically, you could tune in also later to the recordings on YouTube. But today we have a very special guest with us. We're going to talk about branding. This is something startups...
Somebody says that, okay, can't hear well.
Can't hear well.
Okay.
Okay, but Marco is on it. Anyway.
Yeah. Excellent.
So going back to our session today, we're talking about branding. This is something that we've seen many startups neglect, especially in the early stages. And we have an expert with us, Loe Russell, all the way from, well, she's in Berlin, but Canadian originally, correct, Loe? And Loe has worked with countless of brands throughout the world, and we're very honored and happy to have you here and giving your time to these females on their products. Perhaps Loe, give us a short introduction, a short background, who you are, and we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the invite, Ram. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here. I've had a really good time looking through all of your pitch decks, and I got to see you on YouTube. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm a creative director. As Ram said, I'm from Canada, but I've been living between Germany and Dubai for the last 10 years. I work primarily with SMEs. I got my start in the agency world, but I got out of that world quite quickly and started working independently with small and medium-sized companies, either doing brand building or brand revamping. My main focuses in my work are design, web development, photography, a bit of video. And yeah, I've worked in many different sectors. This is one of the most interesting parts of my work, is that I get to play detective in different fields. So I've done some fashion tech, I've done some space technology, I've done some financial, and this year I did mobile energy for vehicle fleets. So I'm all over the place with sectors, which is really cool.
That's awesome, actually. You also did some blockchain. Don't forget, we had a startup from Wave9, Valega Chain Analytics from Finland, and they were so satisfied with the feedback you gave them.
Thank you. Yeah, they were nice to work with. Yeah, so I guess I'll just summarize a bit of how I generally work with clients. I usually start with client briefings, and that's where I get information about the current status of the company, the goals and the challenges that the company is facing. From there, I do lots of research. So that's both industry comparables as well as external solutions in other industries, which I'll get into some more later. I always create mood boards. This is a collection of imagery and text that represents the overall direction that I think that we should take the brand. From there, I start on design, which can include brand identity, web development, or presentation. And I often do concepting. In many instances, I'll work with a copywriter and we'll do conceptual development for either a campaign or the overall brand tonality. And then from there, we do lots of production, which is primarily digital, but sometimes it's prep for print as well. Yeah, so from there, I have a little presentation I'd love to share with you guys.
Loe, before you go into the presentation, just the ladies, I forgot we're not live streaming every session. It's been a few weeks since the public has heard from you. So how's it been so far? Intense? What's your overall impression? Maybe Giovanna, we start with you.
Yeah, it's great. We've been learning a lot, and I'm very excited to continue with you all. And yeah, just it's been really cool, really good so far.
Very good. And you, Maripi, all the way from Peru, Maripi and Ina.
Yes, great, Ram. I think we have advanced a lot in developing our idea, and we have found very good feedback within the accelerator.
Yeah, just an add from my side. I thank you, Ram. It's been really just so different perspectives. That was really so valuable. You know, you get from every contact we have and every session with different investors, guests, or partners. We always get like different views, and that is really helps us grow, and that's really valuable. Thank you.
Awesome to hear. How about you, Helen?
Yeah, it's cool. I have very different perspective too, and I can work with this, and it's very cool to have these experts every day. So we have very much fun.
Cool, good to hear. And Anka, you've been the most active on Slack. That's what Slack gave me, basically. They said the most active user is you. Are you there, Anka? Or are you frozen? I think she froze. Okay, but while she fixes her connection, Loe, we can get now into your presentation, and we take it from there. It's your session. I'm listening.
Awesome, thank you. And is my volume okay, or should I talk even louder?
It's good.
Okay, great.
Good, yeah.
I need to screen share. I need to be
yes,
enabled.
Here it is. Now you can do it.
Okay. Can everyone see?
No, not yet.
No.
Can you try again? Yes.
Yes, it's here.
Great. Is it full screen?
Almost.
Okay.
What do you mean full? I can see the sides actually, but it's good enough, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not presentation mode, but you can see the.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have called this Beyond the Logo for the simple reason that one of the main struggles I see with young brands is that they get stuck on the logo. Early on, I think that we tend to get caught up in the details and we want it to be perfect. And so we want the initial branding to be just perfect. And, you know, we're nervous to release anything because we're not sure if it's going to work. And there's a lot of pressure on the logo. And I find that what ends up happening is that so much time goes into the initial brand that a lot of, as Ram said earlier, a lot of the other components get neglected, or there's not enough time to produce good communications after the fact. So my purpose in this presentation is to point out all of the different areas besides the logo that can have great impact when you're working with a lean time budget and a lean financial budget to develop a strong brand. So whether you're working either with external designers or you're a do-it-yourselfer, I've put together some basic starting points for working on your brand from scratch. So the starting point is the foundation, which in design is generally called a brand guideline.
Loe, did you switch slide or you're still on the main slide? Because we just see the main slide. Yep.
You can see?
Lay foundation.
Yeah. Okay. So the brand guideline is the core of the brand. It's the personality, the mission, the specifics about how it will be communicated. It acts as a blueprint for future communications for the brand. That said, it's not set in stone. It's something that can and should evolve over time as the brand develops, as there are insights gained, and as the goals of the brand change. So it's not like it's important to have, but it's something that should change over time. So what are the main elements of a brand guideline? Firstly, there are incredibly complex brand guides and incredibly simplified ones. And so I think I'm only really recommending a simple one. We don't need to be laying down technical details of spacing and precise rules of design at this point, I don't believe. It's more about trying to put together a cohesive plan to be able to pull from at the beginning. So a starting point in the brand guideline is the logo. Here I've shown two versions of logo. One is a traditional logo on the left, that's a word mark. And then on the right is a logo mark. And oftentimes you'll see both components within one. Typography is also a part of the brand guideline. Color palette is an important one as a starting point. So there's typically a primary palette and a secondary palette in order to help show hierarchy of information and to show some unity within the content. Iconography is something that a lot of brands use for various purposes. This company has done a really nice job of bespoke imagery. It's quite playful and yeah, they're showing their process through iconography. Visual and graphic styles are incredibly important to look at because they are going to take up the most real estate in your marketing materials. They can go in so many different directions. There's so many different ways that you can take a brand. So it's really one of the most exciting elements of a brand guideline. And here I have an example where traditionally a massage therapy company would show stock photography of people having massages within centers, within spas. And this brand did something really unique, which is they showed custom illustration of each of their products and services, which was very playful and stood out, definitely memorable. And this was an app basically where you could order a service and they did a really nice job. Another example of a visual style would be to show photography overlaid with technical drawings. This is something that I do a lot in my work. It's something that I think works well for communication. It's a nice way to extend beyond just showing diagrams to incorporate them into photography. And you can also make them interactive whenever you're dealing with websites. Photography styles is also incredibly important. So in this instance, I'm showing on the left, this is a more standardized environmental portrait. And then on the right is a lifestyle image. So to differentiate between the two. The brand voice, this is incredibly important. This is oftentimes where the copywriter would come in, but also everyone on the team usually, at least the stakeholders. So this is for the overall tone of the copywriting and for every facet of the verbal communication. So that's not only the paragraph text, that's also what a button says on the website. It's how your emails are subjected. And here's an example of how 3 different companies, these are all fashion brands. They've gone in completely different directions with their brand tone. So here you have a playful, like personalized writing to the customer. Judy, it's time to love your underwear. And for each customer, they get their name put in. The middle one is more about prestige of their sustainability practices and supporting the local economy. And the third one is more aspirational. So you see there's such a diverse array of things you can do with language. Here's an example of buttons and of forms. So, and this one, instead of your standardized contact us, they've gone, want to speak to a human being. And I really feel like that makes a huge difference. You know, it's like, it's breaking through the conventions of language and traditional forms on a website, which is something we see every day. On the right, a button is generally submit or enter email. You know, it's very conventional generally. So this company, this is InDesign, and it's InVision, sorry. And they've done these really playful buttons. They're always cheeky and funny. So next I have Make a Visual Family. And this is really about cohesion. This can be both visual and textual. So I think this relates to the issue with time and capacity, particularly within startups, but also sometimes within large corporates. When things are very much segmented, you'll have the same issue. And this is, it can feel like all of the communications are disjointed, and it feels like one piece is coming from a totally different tone, voice, designer from another. The visuals are different. The communication style is different. And I think this is a weak point for a brand. I think having cohesion throughout every facet of the communications is so important for building credibility, for being memorable, for being consistent. I think that sometimes there's a lot of pressure to stick in an image because we should. And I would argue that having 3 very strong images that work is better than having 20 images that don't work. I think stripping it down to images that work well together is more effective. So thinking too myopically, I know that there's a pressure to let's get it done, let's churn it out now, and then we can refine it later. I totally understand that, and I've had to do that myself on many occasions. But I think that through establishing a visual plan, at least you can have a bucket of things to pull from and not just grab things as you go. Next, simplify. This is a huge one, and it's very cheap to do. It's just about editing, which actually is one of the hardest things to do. But my motto is less is more, simplify your content, and scale back. Don't try to include too much content at once. So one of the biggest things I encounter with startups is the PowerPoint presentation, and particularly ones that are being targeted towards investors, because there's such a pressure to get all of the information out there. And there's also a fear of missing a point. Like, we want to get all of the points there. And I totally understand that. But my argument is we really want to lead the audience. The audience is made up of humans, whether they're investors or not. And their attention spans are short, and we really want to be able to get the core imperative information to them. And if there's too much, if it's too overwhelming, you can really miss the mark on that. So I'm constantly encouraging people to strip it down to just what you need, or stretch it out. That's another option, is rather than throw 100 ideas onto one page, spread it over 15 pages if you have to, just to make the content digestible. It needs room.
I want to add to that. Loe, you're spot on here. And what we're working on is two kind of presentations. So the ladies will have a pitch deck, which is for the demo day. And that we will work on it in the coming weeks and should be totally stripped. Mostly you're talking, and it should be as visual as possible with our rule of thumb is not more than 10 words per slide and maybe 1 slide per minute. So roughly when you present to an audience in a demo day, it's 5-minute pitch, 5 slides and done. The decks that you received now are Loe, and you will see them later. There are more decks to be sent over email. It's the first version. We're looking at branding now, not so much at content. And I agree. They definitely need to be simplified even then, because some of them really have a lot of text. So simplifying less is more. Normally.
Definitely. I think also from a design perspective, it's really about giving more space physically on the page. So you always want more breathing room for the text.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. You don't want it nudged up against the edge. You want to have more space around the border, and then you want to have space between the content blocks, because it allows for somebody to consume it more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, here's an example of that with very little text, very small text. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my next idea is the most exciting one for me. It's cross-pollinate, and this is an idea, this is a concept in business that I hear about a lot, but it's very exciting to me in the world of design because it's the best way to find inspiration and to differentiate yourself within your sector for your brand. So I would say cross-pollination, it's a process of finding value from sources beyond the industry you're in. It can include other sectors, pop culture, news, art. It's really a way to avoid industry conventions and to find solutions that work well in other industries and adapt them to your needs. So I just have 3 examples just to see. These are 3 financially focused companies and how they've gone in incredibly different directions through cross-pollination. So this is Wealth Simple. They're an investment platform, and they've utilized traditional, like the nostalgia of children's toys done in this really stylized way to show their systems. This is Klarna. I believe they're based in Sweden, and they're a payment gateway. They've done a sort of cheeky luxury opulence, really out of the box for financial products. Amazing. And then here's HSBC, which is more of an intellectual provocation, philosophical approach. And I think the idea of cross-pollination can manifest in brand personality, but also in function. And an example of function would be, this is my insurance provider is a digital insurance company based in Munich, and they're fantastic. The interface is really, really well done, and the service is very well done. And so for me, every time I'm working on a brand that has some form of service element, I'm looking at that company because they've done it so well. How can I take their base and integrate that into another product type? And user experience. I think that oftentimes people confuse design with looking polished and professional, and I would argue that it's much more than that. It's also about function, and so it's about where function meets form is the way we can say it the easiest. I think that the point of the design is to meet goals. Looking nice doesn't necessarily mean it's serving its purpose. A user needs to be able to easily navigate it if we're talking about a website, and credibility is reinforced through positive experience for the user. I would also say that user experience is every facet of the communication. So that's from the first touch point until the delivery of the product or service, and then beyond that, the follow-up. So that could be in your email marketing, your surveys, your packaging, your initial contact, you name it. That's all part of the chain. And it all matters. And then lastly, I have speak to humans. And this is another area where I see a lot of lack in startups in terms of the communications. I think that the most effective brands are able to empathize with their audience to the point of creating trust and loyalty. And I think that is done both through the visuals and also through the language. I think that audiences are savvy and skeptical of sales techniques, so it's imperative that brands come across as authentic and transparent. And I think that we're seeing trends in different sectors, particularly in consumer-based sectors, but also in B2B, where we're seeing more diverse imagery in terms of ethnicity, age, body type. And then it can also come through in messaging choices. So in that regard, I would say in this instance, I think we're dealing with a lot of B2B type language because we're dealing with investors. But I would argue that we're still speaking to humans, and it's important to connect, even though it's in a business level, it's still important to connect on a human level. And then lastly, I just wanted to throw out some resources, and I'll speak specifically to you after. This is a good starting place for when you're looking for inspiration and for assets to use when you're putting together your initial decks and your initial branding. Unsplash is a photography site. They have really fantastic images that are free to use. You don't have to do anything other than download them. It's a really amazing archive of work. Google Fonts, of course, everybody knows, but there you can really go in and you can lay out your text and you can experiment with it and see how it will look without having to fork out a lot of money for usage rights. A Canva is a good place to start for initial layout. So this could be for a banner or for an email banner. It could be for a presentation, you name it. And then Behance is a really great archive of creative work for tons of different types of work, ranging from video to 3D to illustration, and it's a really good source of inspiration if you want to just go there. I get lost in it all the time. It's kind of like the Pinterest for branding people. So yeah, check out Behance. And that's it.
Awesome. Any questions so far from the ladies? Okay, Loe, then yes, you decide. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe can you give us some advice? I think we just mentioned that a little earlier. I think it's always really difficult to differentiate between the presentation that you actually hold and you talk, you know, and I totally understand that you don't need to put a lot of stuff on the slides, and the one then you send to the investors where you, well, have to put some content on it, obviously, otherwise, or at least one thing that they wouldn't understand. Is there, how is there like, yeah, do you have some advice how to create those two different presentations?
What I would say is that you never want to leave someone guessing. And so particularly when you're sending it through mail and you're not there, you're not in control of the conversation and you're not able to clarify things, it's so much more important actually to make things very, very clear and simple. So the more straightforward you can get, the better. And that's in terms of your writing, but also design can really help that, because the way that you lay things out can make a huge difference in terms of where their eyes go and how they absorb the information. Also in terms of creating infographics and charts. having the information organized in a way that's easy to consume.
And is there a guide, for instance, that you could recommend, that highlights things like, where start people reading and what is, the way they go through the presentation? Like, because I know the style guides of presentations, but they, don't help me when I try to find my own, create my own way of presentation. So is there something you could recommend?
I know that there have been studies done about how people consume web pages. So there are ways that our eyes naturally consume a website. I'm not sure about, maybe it would be similar with digital presentations, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. I would say that it's hugely about hierarchy, and that can be done through color. It can be done through sizing, through your typography. I think it's really also about finding ways to combine elements so that can simplify them. So rather than showing 15 different components, how can you bring that into 3 components to narrow it down so that you're giving a broader idea in a general way rather than specifics of, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Hello, you can also, if you find some resources, post it on our internal Slack channel to the ladies. That would be great.
Will do.
And also what we do is once you have the presentations, we of course send it out to as many of our mentors to get feedback. And that feedback you collect, all the ladies will collect it and see what works best. From a non-design perspective, just an investor perspective, maybe to answer Giovanna's question, I never recommend to send a long deck or a long investor deck to investors without having talked to them first and taking them through it. So you should have a short deck, like Loe said, that is very simple and brings the core message. But then when you want to bring more stuff in, you should, what you want to get is a call. You want to get a meeting. You want to be able to present the long deck in detail when you get to that perspective. And the same with the demo day. You cannot send the demo day presentation because hopefully the demo day presentation will be as stripped down as possible, because people cannot read and listen at the same time. Maybe Maria will argue differently because she's multitasking, but seriously, it has to be as visual as possible, and people are listening to what you're saying. So that's very important. So there should be at least 3 versions, like the one for when you're presenting, the one when you're sending just to get the follow-up meeting, and then really the long nitty-gritty with all the details where you can take the investor through it.
No, I do agree that the presentation, if you just present, you should try to just use images, because otherwise people will start reading. So that's a problem, that, the small text and they're reading, and you might say something else than what's written there, but they will just not listen, they will read. So that's why to simplify, important. But when you send something, you need to show, of course, the basic data, but you don't want to go into details without talking to them, because that's also, in a way, the deck you send is like a teaser. So, to get that call. And then once you, of course, when you can go through the long deck with the investor, and then you can send it afterwards. So they have it for themselves also. But maybe we go to...
Yeah, I always think the one that I present is not the difficult one, because I can talk, I can say whatever is missing. I always think it's very difficult, to find the right amount of information without giving too much information, so they wouldn't understand, especially when you're so deep into the topic and you think, yeah, that's clear. And then, you hand it to somebody and they're like, what are you talking, what does that mean? And so I think this is like the most difficult one, actually, the one that you sent.
Yeah.
But I think Ram shared with you the basic slides that you should have. I think, it's like you state a problem, you state, your solution to that problem. You talk a little bit about the market size, you talk about what you have achieved, you mention something about the team, and then what you want the money for. So, I mean, it's like those basic stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go
we will go
to the
through
brand.
that. That's for sure. And every investor, you're at a different level in the discussion. It could be the preliminary discussion, but once when you are going into serious investment talks, there's NDAs in place and so forth. So then you can really go deeper.
And this is why you need the discussion with an investor, because then you know what's interesting for them. And then you can take out some slides that they didn't actually even want to see, and maybe add some additional stuff of the questions that they asked you while you were having this conversation. So that's why you need to, adjust it a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Loe, yes, let's go ahead.
So where should we start?
You decide.
Okay.
So flex mode, that's Ina and Mari P at the moment. Mm-hmm. Do you want Ina and Mari P to tell you a bit of what they're doing, or do you want to dive right away into it? No.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, go ahead, Ina, Mari P.
Mari P, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Well, we are Flexmo. We believe in the need of sustainable mobility and in companies that care about their employees. We trust that mobility fringe benefits can play a key role in the mobility transformation by allowing companies and employees to become active players in achieving our global sustainability goals. The reason we create Flexmo, it's because that Flexmo is a platform that connects people, employees, companies, employees, and mobility providers in order to allow companies to offer an eco-friendly, 24/7, convenient, flexible mobility solution as a fringe benefit. We expect companies to reduce their administrative effort, to reduce cost, and to get a positive impact on their CO2 footprint. We expect employees to gain a reduction in their mobility spend, to receive a flexible door-to-door mobility service, and also to see an impact in a reduction on their CO2 footprint. And we also will expect to connect mobility providers, which will have or gain access to a captive market. That's basically our Flexmo business proposition. We are a platform with an app that allows employees to receive a mobility benefit from their employers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No?
Great, thank you for that. I have a bit of a cough. I'm going to try to contain it, but I apologize. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. That was Ina, right?
That was Mari P.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, so I've gone through this. So I just have a few notes, and by all means, as we go through, you can ask me specific questions. Yeah, just interrupt me. So this page starting out, it's quite information heavy. So I would say we can definitely spread this out into 2 pages probably, or have more simplified imagery, possibly something that has a shallow depth of field so that the text is more legible on top of it. Right now it's really getting eaten up by the detail of the imagery, and you lose the text. So I would say I would really spend some time trying to find some stronger imagery. And I think that you'll probably be able to find some things that would work here on Unsplash.
How about, sorry, go back. How about the images themselves?
I'm not a huge fan of the sort of the obvious. So sometimes images can feel a bit cliche. And so, for example, if I was to go to a stock site, a micro stock site, and I searched for contract or ending contract, I would get that image that would come up. And so it feels a bit old-fashioned to have it to be so obvious. I would probably rather see something like details of papers that look abstract. Like that's enough. If you can have a shallow depth of field, so the background would be blurry, you see some papers up front, people will get the idea that that's a contract. You don't need to be so blatant. You don't need to spell it out. And also that would act as a much stronger backdrop for your text.
Interesting.
So can I ask you, before you continue on the slides, can you just say something on general on the logo and the coloring?
For coloring, I have written, I think that you need an additional color to add. Right now it's feeling a bit dry. So the colors are fine, but I would say add a couple of other ones that you can utilize throughout. And I would also have some lighter tones so that you don't have to use that blue everywhere, because it's quite an intense color. I would use it more sparingly. And the logo, I mean, I think you could definitely evolve this. I would put some time into it, actually, because I think it could be a lot more modern.
Yes, we already got the feedback that it's a bit retro.
Yeah.
Yes,
definitely. And just a simple design critique that I'll say to everyone: just give more space around the actual content. So it needs a bit of room on the top, all the way around, or on the top and the bottom.
Okay.
Laura, I was going to ask you also, what about having 3 messages in one slide or 3 facts? Is that too much?
It depends on the facts. I think that it really depends on how focused you want them to be on each one, right? Or if there's a reason for them to be beside each other. Are they in contrast of each other? So this is more of a messaging choice. And yeah, I don't know enough about it to say, really. I wouldn't think that 3 is out of the question.
It shouldn't be, from what we've seen also, it's not a problem. In the demo day, you could use 3 words. I mean, the title of the slide could be problem and boom, boom, boom. Three things. And then you talk. You don't need to spell it out. So that could be one thing. Or as Loe said, find one good image, the problem, show that image, and while you're showing that image, you're mentioning the other 2 problems.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So here I like that you've brought in a human being. I think that really you have so many opportunities throughout your presentations to show people utilizing the different mobility, the different transport mobility methods, sorry. So I think that you really could have a range, and I think you need a range that look unified. So they need to have similar color palette, or similar, either the similar model, similar lighting, similar color palette, and showing the diversity of the different transport modes. I think that would be good. And you don't even necessarily need to show the whole piece. It could be somebody within a vehicle and just showing the detail of a vehicle. It doesn't always need to be the whole item. Here, I would, of course, say more breathing room.
Yeah.
Yeah, this page is intense for me.
Yeah.
So
for us too.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
All I can say from a design perspective is, yeah, simplify and definitely bring in some more colors so that you can create hierarchies. Because right now I don't really know where to look. I'm sort of looking everywhere.
Loe, may I just ask you again on the colors, because we were struggling a little bit on having 3 colors already. I mean, it's white, it's whatever kind of shade of gray, and whatever kind of shade of blue turquoise, and so, but we are reckoning, or you're advising to bring in even more colors and then substitute the turquoise for something that is somehow lighter and not so intense. But it's good to bring in more colors. Is that correct? Did I get this correct? Because we were struggling on 3 already.
Yeah, I think you should have some primary colors and then secondary.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of times your colors don't even have to be that different. So you could have more muted, like closer to the white, but in different shades. And that can act as a nice differentiator between levels. So you can, for example, where the blue is in your main body here, that could be a much lighter color, so it's not as jarring. And then use shots of color in small ways to carry the user's eyes.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
I wouldn't know how to change or simplify this slide. At the end of the day, I understand what you're trying to show here. And of course, when you're at advanced talks with potential investors, you want to show this. Loe, would you have any comment here? Because this is not something that's going on a website, for example. This is really a presentation to an investor.
Yeah, I would say if it's something that is going to be viewed on screen, then you could bring the text size down a bit. That would give some more space. I know whenever you're projecting something in a boardroom, for example, the text has to be a certain size. Excuse me. But if it's not, then I would bring the text size down, and then that at least gives you some space to spread the elements apart. I would also say, I just think the color palette is it's just too dry, you know, it's not very exciting to look at. It feels very industrial, like you would see on a caution label or an instruction manual. So I really think adding some color to this would help.
But wouldn't it also help on this slide to take away the text, like the what we have on the text? I mean, that would lighten it up as well, and then you could just talk people through, right?
Yep. Yeah, in my opinion, yes. And you could probably divide the employees text on the right and the company text on the left into separate slides.
Yeah.
If needed.
Yeah, good point.
So 2 slides for this.
Could be, yeah. And no slide for the demo day. For the presentation, you just talk about it.
Yeah.
You talk about the benefits for the companies, the benefits for the employees. With the scooter picture we saw, for example. By the way, I like that you kept the logo on every slide. That's something I always remind everyone. Have your logo on every slide and number the slides. Because then people can refer back to slide number 4,
Okay.
for example. And we had once a presentation that was live streamed, and the person was talking about the competition. So there was a big logo of the competitor. There was no logo of his own company, and that particular picture ended up in a magazine.
Oh no, that's really bad.
So this is why always keep your logo on your slide.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change the logo or mess with the logo. I saw like in the previous slide, there was no logo. You just wrote Flexmo in a different way. So
yeah,
that's something we were taught also with Accelerator Frankfurt. Don't start messing around with the logo.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Sorry, Loe.
No, by all means. Yeah, okay, so a lot of it is quite similar content types. The only other notes I had on design were that I think it would be interesting to show the different vehicle models that you're representing actual in render form. So you could see them lined up beside each other. So whether that be, I don't know if you said what types of vehicles you cover. Is it like automobiles, scooters?
Yeah.
Yeah,
correct.
So, I would recommend a place like Envato Elements. This is another, it's not a free resource, but it's a fairly affordable resource.
Envato, how do you spell Envato?
ENVATO.
Oh, okay. That's very easy. Thank you.
And then Elements.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a subscription-based service where you can buy illustrations and renderings and typography. You can buy lots of different creative assets that you can adapt. So this place in particular, I know because I just did a project on automotive fleets. They have really fantastic renderings of all types of vehicles, and you can customize them to be whatever colors and to have branding on them and whatever you want. So it's a really good place to look for that kind of thing.
Great.
And they look very professional.
Great, thanks.
Great.
Yeah, so that's the full spectrum of notes I have for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask while we're here?
I think that as you go looking for the extra colors and so forth, we can always reach out to Loe and get her opinion before the demo day, if that's possible. We'll send email and connect you.
Great. Yeah, that would be fab, Ram. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
There are also websites. I think there's one called Plenty of Color, but there are many of them where you can go and you can search for different palettes for ideas. So you'll see tons of different, like they'll talk about like neon palettes or pastels or monochromatic palettes, and you can get a feel for what would complement other color families.
Okay.
Loe, one question. What sort of budget, when they're looking, for example, for investment, what sort of budget should they put aside for their basic branding?
It's a really difficult question. I would say to get somebody with experience, you're looking at least $5K to do a basic scope of work. And then if you're dealing with an agency, it could be 150K or 500K, you know, there's a huge range, but generally you can find a solid designer that can do some really nice work for about 5K.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you.
Should we go to next?
Okay, who do I have here? Oh, Finland Way. We're going to skip this one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I can send them my notes after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Okay, so this is Helen.
Yes. We start with me? Okay. Yeah. Hello, my name is Helen, and I have to start at Gegenwind. Gegenwind is the German word for headwind. It means we are different. We don't make a shoe for the mass, but a shoe for you. We assume social responsibility, discover your individuality, and awaken your potential. we don't reinvent the wheel, but the cycling shoe. And just the idea is you scan your foot, we deliver your individual shoe and producers in Europe. All our products are durable and sustainable for better performance, for long-term fun in sports, and no waste of resources. How can I get further?
I think that's good there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Really exciting product off the bat. I think that there's so much potential here for doing really cool creative assets. So I think this is going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with this. I'll start just on your main page. I think that you need to do a visual that speaks of your actual product. So this one is nice. There's a dreaminess about it. I like the image, but I think that it's important to have some sort of call out to what you're actually selling. That could also be in your tagline. So if you wanted to leave it in this sort of teaser approach, if your tagline is clear enough, that would be good.
Okay.
Also, just color-wise, your logo is competing a bit with the background here. So it's hard to read the word.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I see.
I really like your team photos. They're really different.
Yeah.
They're cool.
We done it last week. Yeah. Yeah. So that's our team. We have David. It's our management type. He's responsible for finance and management, and also a mountain biker and coffee specialist. And Lukas is our technology nerd, also climber and cyclist. And I'm also a product designer and the contact for our creative tasks. I'm doing triathlon and also other sports outdoors.
Cool. Okay, so I'm assuming, are these prototype?
Yes, this is the first prototype.
Okay, so what I was going to say, I like how you have them positioned. I think that they still do look very prototype, and I think here, even if you had the final version, I would probably recommend doing a 3D rendering for your imagery, just because it will never look as clean as that. And I think this is the type of product that should look really polished, because you're competing against like big shoe companies that always use renderings. So it's just sort of par for the course.
Okay.
Also, it's probably cheaper than getting them shot.
Yeah, that's right.
With all the retouching that it would entail. Yeah, also I wanted to say, I'm not sure if there's a point where you talked about how your USP from your competitors is that yours are actually customizable. And I was curious if they're visually different when you customize them, or is it all some sort of internal element?
No, of this page, I only say that's our first prototype, and the customization comes later. So, yeah.
But I'm curious, like in your actual, if I was to get a pair and my friend got a pair, would there be a visual difference?
No, I don't have it's different by, you can customizing by colors and stuff. And also your foot is different from each other. So you can see it really, but you can feel it.
Okay. Yeah, so it would be really cool to show the different variations, or at least a few of them.
Okay.
And if you're doing a rendering, you could do that quite simply if it's a color variation.
Yeah.
I also see, particularly for the internal components where you're doing the customization, I like here how you've gone and done this. I think that this page in particular could be interesting to show in a diagram, like here. like over top of a lifestyle image. It'd be interesting to show technical specs on top of a person in motion riding.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Like, as a means of showing what's happening technically within the shoe, like in the construction and what it's actually targeting. It would be cool visually to see some sort of illustrative element on top of a lifestyle image of somebody utilizing the product.
Okay.
And that could be done in video form, or it could be done in a flat, just a layered image.
Yeah, flat.
Do you see what I mean, that the logo's not on the slides, or is it on in the previous slides?
I see here there's a logo mark. So she's simplified it.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the previous slide. So,
oh, okay.
And the previous, yeah, it's behind the layer. So. It's not the final version.
Yeah, but just remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's constructed, also how the prototype now is the construction of the prototype. So you have the sole and the inner shoe and the outer shoe. I would to say that's different. That's a difference to other cycling shoes because it's separated from each other, and you can separate each material by type.
Okay. And do they come apart after the fact? Like, can you interchange them?
What do you can recycle it after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the idea of this. Like, I think it's really cool to do a dissection of the product. I think this could be a lot cooler, like how we show it. It could be like more in the air, like it's in motion, and more dynamic angles. Probably, again, a 3D rendering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I really like how you've done the diagram. I think this is really cool, and I think it's going to be great to see it come to life. I can see a lot of potential here, particularly if you're putting this on the website, of doing small animations of these little elements, like just little tiny motion animations could be really great. And I also see huge potential here if you're able to do video of the process happening. So if you're able to capture that process, that would be really awesome footage to edit together.
Okay.
And yeah, I have a ton of references for you. Maybe I'll send them to you after the fact, just because there's so many places I can see that have parallels with what you're doing that would really work well for this product.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'll send you something after, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Do you have any questions for me?
Maybe I use different icons here. So I made some of them by hand, by myself, and some of them I found in the computer, but I cannot find really cool icons. Maybe, do you know where I can find cool icons, or should I do it myself?
I like how you've done them, to be honest. They're really,
okay.
Yeah. I would say icons are a nightmare to find online, to find the specific ones you need that look like they come from the same family. You almost always need to do them from scratch, unless you're doing really basic things. But what you're doing, I think, is too special. Yeah, I would say you could possibly, if you are able to do your own versions of these, like what you've done, and then hand them off to an illustrator to refine.
Yeah,
that would go a long way. And that would be quite fast to do. You could probably use one of the sourcing sites like Fiverr or Yeah, Fiverr's terrible for some things, but things like this, it's quite good at. So if you need somebody to do like a vector quickly, and you just say like, can you take what I have done and then refine it? And you can get someone to do it quite well, quite fast.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the other website, but yeah,
Upwork.
I'll get back to
Upwork.
it. Yeah, Upwork, exactly.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, for me not.
Okay. Really cool stuff.
Thank you, Lo.
You're welcome. Okay, next, we're only going to stay on this page, right?
Giovanna?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not ready, the presentation. So, and as we're starting to talk to I don't know, maybe it's better just to stay at this page.
So maybe tell us shortly, what is it?
Well, we are planning to build the first programmable quantum simulator in Germany for industrial use, which basically is a special purpose quantum computer that solves optimization, very complex optimization problems. Yeah, in all kind of industries, for instance, the finance industry or chemistry. Yeah. So this is what we do. I mean, we can, to go back to your question, we can look at this. We can also look at the team, I think, maybe just not the pictures of the pictures later on.
Which page would I bring it to?
Let me.
Well, we can start on this page. I will look where the team is.
Yeah, the team is actually the one afterwards, so you can see the team and yeah, I work with. And also we can look at the first 4 slides. This is no problem.
Okay. Cool.
So quantum computing, how do you visualize that, the branding?
Yeah, this is way above my pay grade. Yeah, I think that first of all, I kind of like the colors. Like they're ugly, but they're perfect. Like there's something I really like about them. I like the simplicity of them. Yeah, it's funny because this is the only one where I really was thinking you don't really need to go towards the human. You don't need to show a lot of humanity necessarily in this. I think it's more important to be able to express what you're actually doing with this complex idea. So I think that diagrams and renderings are going to go a long way for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that showing the system process through illustrations is going to be key.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I saw some sort of imagery of a computer, a component like with many extensions. Is that the actual? What is that?
Yeah, that's one of the later slides, right? Well, there's one which is actually the computer, the final computer of our competitor, and then there's another rack which is will be the home of our computer, and it's already got some parts of it, but not everything yet. So we don't have a picture of the final product yet because we will fix or we haven't build it yet. We're going to. So yeah. So this So this is actually what is difficult at the moment because we don't have pictures to visualize. So we're working on these.
Yeah, I would say that the pictures won't necessarily be your strong point. Like I think I saw one image of a computer in a structure, but I think that renderings will really work well for you. I also think that because it's quite, like, I really like, for example, this page, I really like that it's this statement and that it's text heavy. I think it's almost appropriate. I think interspersing it with diagrams will help, but particularly for your website or for anything digital, it'd be nice to see some animated motion with how you deliver the content. So I mean animated text. So you'll see lines coming in one at a time, or you'll see a small diagram happening as you scroll down a page. Just really thoughtful animations to give some life to the content. Since you're not using the human approach, like adding motion in a way, I think could be really cool for this.
And what would you say, because we differentiate a little bit from some competitors, but when we look at their slides and presentations and homepages, very fancy, like they have these fancy universe pictures in the background. So would you, you said you like the clean, just simple way we present it. Would you stick with that, or would you also find good words for the universal, futuristic pictures they use?
I think if you're going to go in a visual way, that it's important to have something that feels bespoke, because I think a lot of times, particularly like technical and futuristic elements become very cliched and they're overdone. Like, for example, when I was working on this space tech with a space tech satellite, a startup, I did tons of research on space companies, and they all looked the same. Like, it was like a copy after a copy after a copy. And then I came to one in particular that had done something actually kind of like this. Like, it was quite rudimentary, but it was so striking. Like, the way that they had represented the system was really, really beautiful. Like, it was effective. So I certainly wouldn't say copy what they're doing. I don't think, that would be the best approach. But I do think that there's something here. There's something like really that is growing on me. It's so funny because it's the most simple slide, but I can just see, I think because your concept is so heavy, like it's so complex, you don't necessarily need like visionary imagery. I think it's really about articulating it well and then showing process through an illustrative component that moves a bit. That's all I'm seeing now. And it's only, I haven't had a chance to really research what you're doing, but that's my initial take on it.
In general, I see the colors are very easy to the eye. If you scroll down 2 slides, next one, yeah, here. So there's quite a lot of text here, but it's quite easy on the eye still. I'd say it's not for the pitch. When you're pitching, of course, strip the text, but what do you think, Loe? What is the reason it's easy?
I think that there's just a nice amount of contrast, particularly on the left side here. On the right side, I would say I would worry about that a little because there's a bit of competition between the green and the thin font. So I might bring a heavier weight of font there. Yeah, and I think that it's quite nicely spaced, and that makes a big difference. Like there's breathing room here. And so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Do you have good recommendations for how you call it, Schriftart in English, the lettering, just simple and very clean? I really like the one you had in your presentation. I don't know if it's appropriate.
TypeScript.
Yeah, TypeScript, exactly. You have some recommendations of very clean TypeScript.
What is it? I missed that.
TypeScript, like the letter, the format you're using.
The font style.
Font style, again.
Yeah, I would say the easiest place is to use Google Fonts because they have hundreds of them on there, and you can actually go in and put your text and then put your tracking and spacing. So you can see it spreading wider. You can do all caps and normal caps. And then it'll show them in a list so you can compare. There's also a really good app called Typeface, which it's for, I think, Mac only or Apple computers only. And they do a really nice job of doing font comparisons within your own system. So if you have many fonts in your system, you can see how they're looking instead of having to tap down one at a time. Yeah, I think when I was talking about the animation elements earlier, I think like these pieces would be ideal for that. This type of graphic, what you have here.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm just looking at my notes here. Yeah, I had actually put down, yeah, I would also introduce one other color at least.
Yeah, I know. I already, I just played around a little bit. I already figured that this would come up as well in our context.
Yeah, but it looks good. Yeah, I like how you've done this, like this information box. I can see that playing cool, like almost like an FAQ, you know, as people go through the information, like it feels very simple.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Cool. Don't forget perhaps also the logo on this page.
I already read that, and the page numbers are missing as well.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ann-Katrin, can you introduce it?
Yeah, so we just started in March with thinking about Wave projects, or in February, which should be a booking platform for surf travel experiences. And we don't want to be a provider our own. We want to facilitate owner-managed travel providers to offer their services on our platform.
Okay. So it's kind of like Airbnb for surfing?
Yeah, or booking.com for surfing.
Okay, cool. It's also a very exciting product to show because it's so visual. So you're going to have tons to work with. Yeah, so a starting point just on your front page. It looks like you haven't established a logo yet?
No, not yet, but I put it here on my prior list when you're talking.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think even a word like a typeface alone would be fine for this because you're going to have such captivating imagery. Just from a technical, the image here is stretched.
Yeah.
Just always make sure. I know PowerPoint can be finicky. Yeah. Okay, so my first note to you is just like you have the most amazing thing to show. Like some of the most incredible photography in the world is of surfing. Like you have just amazing things to work with. So I would really encourage you to explore what's out there image-wise. Free and even paid for decent budgets. You can get really, really beautiful stuff. A lot of people do it as a hobby, like do the photography as a hobby. And I've just seen really phenomenal shots. And I think that really like that's what you're selling here is like the dream of surfing. And it's like this very romantic and aspirational activity. So really want to show that like when you can.
So you would recommend to put a real pig and maybe like as a dream bubble or something like that, and less text, more images?
I don't think that less text is an issue. Like, I think your text is quite moderate. I think it's just that you really want to capitalize on the fact that you're dealing with oceans of beautiful water and people like playing in the sea. It's like such an easy thing to romanticize. So I would just incorporate way more photography into this, and I would get rid of as many icons as you can. Like, the icons just don't do it justice. If you do utilize icons, I would overlay them on top of beautiful photography. And the good thing about waves is that they're easy to see text on, they're easy to see icons on top of, so wouldn't be too hard, particularly on this page. I could see a whole full page spread and all of the text could be visible, and you have this amazing image, and then you have all of these components marked. Because here you really lose the romance.
Style-wise, a bit like Helen did it with the cyclist and then the bubbles around it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How would you go, Loe, from the problem to the solution? Would you want to show kind of a dull image to a great image, or stick with great images, but how to find those places?
It's an interesting thought.
Because what happens to many surfers, they could go to the wrong place at the wrong season, flat wave. They could stay in a very dodgy surf house with rats and cockroaches. I don't know, you can paint a really terrible image and then the hero comes and saves the day.
Yeah, I don't know if I would show the rats, but
I was to the extreme. I don't know how to go about it, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like what you said. I think there's an interesting place where you could go with a reveal of some sort. I wouldn't necessarily do like before and after huge contrast, because I think that can be a bit cheesy. But if you were to do like a blacked out or a semi-opaque layer on top of nice imagery, so it's almost like you can see it sort of in the details, and then have that reveal. Yeah, that could be good. Or you could see like, water without life to water full of life, like flat, calm to like full of motion and activity. I would say that like the idea of this character of Tom, like if you are going to do that, I would make it a real being. I wouldn't make it a cartoon, but that's my preference. That isn't necessarily the right way to go. But I think that I'd rather see a human, because as a user, like as someone who is enticed by the idea of surfing, like I've never done it, but it's something that I would do. I want to see someone that I aspire to be like, so a cartoon just doesn't do it for me personally.
Yeah.
I have the same note for you as a few of the others, just introducing a few other colors. I like the color palette as it stands, but I think it needs a bit more to make it more dynamic. I would say that, lifestyle mock-ups are going to do wonders here. Also product mock-ups, so of your actual interface of your product and of people actually using the product, I think would be really helpful, because it will translate more to what you're actually doing, what your service actually is. Also, probably a focus on the surf homes. In some areas showing either like an actual location that could be it could be an example of one of your properties being used, and then show like the surfboard laying against the wall, you know, like show traces of somebody staying there that's going to go surfing. I'd say design wise, a bit more breathing room here. It's not too much content, but just a bit more. Like you can see it's just hitting the edge, and it'll go a long way. It always looks more professional when there's a bit more room. I would look at unifying any of your infographic elements, your infographics, like your maps and your charts could be a similar look.
So color-wise or style-wise or both?
Yeah, color-wise, and also like in terms of this is a flat design. So here you have like a layered design. I would translate that to the map, so you have one look overall. And that could also work with your icons. If you can get a video component, that would be amazing too. That could be incorporated either into a video or into your main, like your landing page banner of your website. That could be some shots of the skyscape of somebody utilizing, somebody in the water, then somebody using the product, just little short clips of the different components. And I would also say testimonials would go a long way here. You don't have any yet, do you?
No, not yet.
Testimonials, I think, would be great here. And I would really work on your logos here. I know it's not supposed to be a pretty page, but just align them a bit.
Would you make them all grayscale, perhaps?
Yeah, I think you could probably get away with that here. Particularly for like a private, like if you're doing investment pitching, yeah.
Okay.
I think this page could be more aspirational for sure. With imagery. It'd be cool to see you guys in your gear, like some images of you guys actually in the practice to show that you're really part of the world. Even if you show a headshot and then a second shot of you surfing. And that's all I've got for notes on yours. But yeah, really awesome start.
Thank you. Cool. That helps a lot. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Would be good, Loe. Yeah, so if you shared with us some resources, all the resources you had with the ladies, you have the emails. Is there anything else from you comments to the ladies or vice versa? Anyone? But you have Loe's email in the invite. Keep me on the CC so we just progress. And that's it, I guess. Right?
Yeah, by all means, shoot me a message if you have any questions. And I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, by all means, I'll put together a list. It was really, really exciting getting to see what you're working on. It makes me want to start another business.